Hello everybody, welcome back to the Nibiru channel. It is March 5th, 2017. We have a fantastic video production for you today, and we're going to go back a little bit to a video that I produced a little over a week ago, and this was information that was sent to me by a credible source, a man who is a retired professor of astronomy and a professional astronomer. We're also going to be hearing from a professional physicist and a professor at a university. Now, the information that I supplied in one of my videos was critiqued on the leak project debate between myself and Astronomy Live. And he stated that the photograph of Venus, which was not in my video, it was a lens flare. And then he further went on to say that the photograph that you're looking at now was a star cluster called Tycho II. He then produced an overlay using his own techniques, and we later found out that all of his information was completely false. It was complete misinformation. And fellow researcher and friend Chris Potter, he has a fantastic YouTube channel, and you're actually going to see the physicist's white paper, her report on what she visualized in the leak project interview between myself and Astronomy Live. And she wrote a paper on her findings, and we're going to be getting into that shortly. But first, I want to touch on this subject. Ladies and gentlemen, myself and other Planet X researchers and investigators, we are simply trying to find the truth. We are trying to find what is exactly going on. This is like trying to find a needle in a haystack, because the odds are always going to be against us, and we are always going to be attacked by these groups that just come out of nowhere, make all of these accusations, and they're normally full of hatred. We deal with it. I deal with it. Now, I'm personally being attacked by some transgender group that has come out of the woodwork. I find it kind of funny. These are the people that actually want your children using transgender bathrooms. I mean, let's get real, people. So no matter what information we provide you, they're always going to have something very critical to say. Whether we're looking at a planet in the solar system, they'll refer to it as a lens flare. They really don't have any credible information in their debunking techniques, other than trying to just simply threaten you. And NASA, well, I mean, they produce some of our information that we bring to you on a daily basis. They can't hide it. They would literally have to take down all of the feeds for all of the satellites and probes that monitor the sun. They're not going to do that. So therefore, these misinformation campaigns are created, and they're meant to turn the tide on you, the people. Create the shadow of doubt. But there's a handful of us out there that are going to continue. No matter what the cost, we're going to find the truth. There may not be anything that we can do about it, but we're going to point these things out as we discover them. Now, as I mentioned, Chris Potter works with a physicist and a professor, and she's fantastic. She's already been personally attacked by Astronomy Live. So I'm going to bring you her paper. Chris made a video about it. I want you to subscribe to Chris's channel. He brings fantastic information to this subject. I'll leave a link directly to his YouTube channel. And the reason why I'm doing this, ladies and gentlemen, is because I want you to have as much information as you can possibly absorb. And Chris, through the physicist, brings very credible scientific information pertaining to what we are investigating. Now, Chris has over 80 white papers that were submitted by this professional, and he goes over them on his YouTube channel. It's fantastic information. It's the information that we're looking for on a scientific front. So once again, at the end of this video, there will be a link to Chris's channel in the description box. Simply click on the link and subscribe to his channel. Support this man and his endeavor. Here's his video. Pay very close attention. And ladies and gentlemen, I just want to point something out before we get into Chris's video with the physicist's white paper. During the video presentation, he refers to the good Scott, which is me, and the bad Scott, which is the creator of the YouTube channel Astronomy Live. Just wanted to point that out. But here is Chris's presentation and the information that was submitted by a professional physicist and a professor of physics. So sit back, pay very close attention. This is in direct response to my interview on the leak project and the information that Astronomy Live misled everyone. So here it is.
All right. Is the object appearing next to Venus in a copyrighted image a lens flare? A physicist's thoughts. Let's begin, shall we? In a video by this guy here on Leak Project, at this particular location, in which Good Scott shows the image of a green object made up of several bright objects surrounded by a gas cloud, when Bad Scott stated that the object was a friggin' lens flare of Venus. This happened at 25 minutes into the video. Now Bad Scott also showed an image of Venus with a real lens flare next to it. This image is shown in figure 1 below. Figure 1. Image of Venus with the lens flare of it appearing on the left of Venus. Now I fully agree that the small bluish blob on the left of Venus is a lens flare, because I know that a lens flare is a secondary image of the object being photographed. And so would look much like the main image, except, well, that it wouldn't be as bright. In figure 1, Venus is the primary image. The main image usually so closely matches the object being photographed that we usually refer to it as the object. Now, we're going to use that terminology in this article. In other words, I'm going to refer to the image of Venus in the photograph in figure 1 as the object. But I am going to refer to the lens flare as a secondary image of the object. Figure 2. Reflected light rays form a real secondary image. Yeah, folks don't seem to have gotten that quite yet, have they? Lens flare. Since I'm the king of lens flare. Oh, let's go, baby! Oh! Or I2, below the main image, or I1, formed by the transmitted part of the incident light. Let's chickadee check that out, boo. I2, I1, reflection, reflected rays converge. Two real images. lens flare action for the lens flare king. Oh. The second, or secondary image rather, of an object always retains the overall shape of the object, but it's less bright and can be smaller or larger than the object in the photograph. So in the case of figure 1, Venus has no obvious symmetry and neither does the blue blob. Okay? Or the blue bob. Okay. The overall shape is the same because reflection of the rays inside the camera cannot auto-magically rearrange the overall outline and structure of the combined light rays that give rise to both the main image and the secondary image. The orientation may change, but not the overall shape or outline of the object or the lens flare. The lens flare is darker than the main object because a lens flare is created from the part of the light that is reflected inside the camera. And the amount of light being reflected is always just a small part of the total light coming off the object. Most of the light is transmitted and gives rise to the main image, or object rather, in the image. This is illustrated in figure 2. Now, in the video I mentioned above, Goodscott showed an object with an obvious symmetry since it was almost a hexagonal outline, and he was told that the object was a lens flare of Venus, which, as we know from figure 1, has no obvious symmetry in its outline. Now, the images shown were reportedly, copyrighted, so we cannot use them here. I will use an illustration instead. Figure 3 below shows a traced outline of the object that Goodscott showed. The outline, as I mentioned before, is almost hexagonal and totally different from Venus's outline. Unless Venus is hexagonal, this object cannot therefore be a flare of Venus. Figure 3. Traced outline of object from Goodscott's channel showed in the video. Its outline is almost hexagonal and completely different from Venus's outline. It therefore cannot be a lens flare of Venus. Let's look at that cool little diagram. This little goo here seems to be made of the same cloud of material, so it is probably part of the same system. This little goo here, star seems to be connected to the cloud of material making up the object. Gotcha. Star seems to be embedded in a layer of dust, cannot be a background object. Central star inside the cloud of material. Bright object seems to be inside the cloud of material and not to be a background object. And this object seems to be made of a cloud of gas and has a bright center, well, which is probably a star inside the gas. Now, the bright object on the left-hand side of the gas cloud, or at 9 o'clock, seems to be surrounded by a layer of gas that is of a slightly different color to the rest of the gas the object is made of. I was thus able to trace the surrounding layer of gas. This suggests that this bright object at 9 o'clock is embedded in that gas cloud and is not a background star. In fact, it is possible that all the bright objects pictured with the cloud are part of the system, as they all seem to be eerily connected to the gas cloud action. The outcrop, connected to the main cloud at 4 o'clock, makes the shape of this cloud very unusual and very unlike Venus. There's a separate small cloud that seems to be of the same material at about 1 o'clock. This object is very likely to be a system of brown dwarf stars, as we have bright objects surrounded by a cloud of gas. And as we have written many times before, when stars run out of fuel, they release their outer layers of gas and thus become brown dwarf stars, surrounded by a cloud of ionized gas. Also, I would like to point out that any database can be manipulated. Just because a database gives an object a name does not friggin' mean that the object is what the database says it is. It could be a flying cheese sandwich. In the end, all we really have is our power of observation. And my analysis of this object reveals that it is not a lens flare, but a real object in the sky. And in conclusion, the object shown by Good Scott cannot be a lens flare of Venus and has to therefore be a real object in the sky. Since it is a real object in the sky, it can be photographed by anybody, and therefore the image that Good Scott showed is most probably a genuine image of an object in the sky taken by someone else. Chris Potter of Physicist's Thoughts, thanks again, and thank you so much for subscribing. Have a wonderful day.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, directly from a professional who does hold degrees in astronomy, in physics, and actually knows what she's talking about. I want to remind you to please go to the description box under this video, click on the link to subscribe to the Chris Potter channel. The information that he provides is definitely worth your time. So please, subscribe to his channel. And I'd like to also remind everyone, there is no harm in preparation. So once again, I'll remind everyone, I am a direct affiliate with Food for Liberty. They provide all of the prepper supplies that you will need in the event of any emergency. Their link will be also provided in the description box under this video. And once again, it does not hurt to be prepared. You can visit Food for Liberty by clicking on the link, and you can place any type of order for any supplies. They hold a 25-year shelf life, non-GMO food products. And trust me, ladies and gentlemen, preparation is something that we all must keep in mind. Thank you for watching.